This is a PI Advice Podcast. This is a PI Podcast. This is a PI Podcast. This is a PI Podcast.
Oh, that's right. It is the PI Podcast. It is business time for all you private investigators out there, you future private investigators, you small business owners, you entrepreneurs, you moguls. What's going on? How's everybody doing? I just finished recording a podcast and I have so much energy. I'm going to do another one. It's amazing. I'm going to maybe crank another one out here and have some in the hopper for you guys so you have something to listen to next. Or actually, it is next week by the time you hear this. So, yeah. Welcome. If you are new to the show, just know that this is the number 3 PI podcast in the world. At least according to Google, I am number 3. Number 2 and number 1 are very good podcasts. They've been around for a very long time. One is the American Private Investigator, I believe it is, and the other one is something to do with investigative stories. I'll have that for you guys next time. Let's see here. Not a lot's been going on in the last 10 minutes, so just want to remind you guys, if you are a book reader, if you are a knowledge seeker, if you read books and like to be entertained, or if you don't, but you wish you should or could, I would give Audible a try. Audible is a audible version of any book that you want to listen to. Someone actually reads the book to you. And Audible has basically a free trial to give you a book. And they just give it to you and they give you a chance to check out their service. You get to pick the book. You get to listen on whatever device you want to listen to it on that they provide. I listen to it on my iPhone. And they give you that free book. And if you don't like it after that, fine. If you like it, stay with their service. I started off with 1 book a month, but then I found that, especially when I'm driving like an hour or 2 to my surveillance case, that I can finish a book pretty quick. And so anyway, I've been going through all these business books and finally, like I told you guys last podcast, I finally got myself a book for enjoyment. And it's been good. So give that a try. Now, the free offer code for this free book that Audible is offering you can be found at audibletrial.com/PI Advice Podcast. That's PI Advice Podcast. And they will get you hooked up with that book, with that offer. So, yeah. It's a bummer. Summer's over and my kids are in school. And it's different. It's going to give me more time to do stuff like this, because I won't have my son at home and the kid, they're all not home for the summer anymore. So, when I have my days off, usually it's family time, it's entertainment time. Per my last podcast, my purposeful reason for not growing my business, wanting to spend more time with my family. And I forgot to mention on that last podcast that, just because I don't want to grow my business because I feel like it's a threat to my freedom, the things I want to do, doesn't mean I still don't, network, make friends in the industry. That still happens. I'm not dumb. And if there's also a thing that a lot of people say out there that if your business isn't growing, it's dying. Now, maybe in some ways that could be true, but I haven't found that to be true because I don't purposely grow my business. If it grows, it grows. If it, and it expands, that's great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not pushing for it. And, like I said, I really don't want to right now because I'm enjoying the days off that I have. Well, yeah, just wanted to put that little addendum on there. Um, yeah, don't think just because your business isn't growing at the rate that everybody else is that it's dying. It's not. But yeah, let's see what else we got going here. I wanted to talk about a couple things. One was, I don't know if you guys remember, let's see if I can find it here, Frank Asher, right? And, well, was it Hank? It was Hank Asher, Hank. And somebody from my association sent everybody in the association this thing about how, Hank Asher dies, right? And I know we talked about that probably like 10 podcasts ago or something like that, but he dies. And apparently he had a life insurance policy that was worth $40 million. So I guess the life insurance policy was supposed to go to the business, TLO. But the funny thing was apparently Hank did not disclose a lot of things for his life insurance policy, which I guess in turn voided it. So the company didn't get a chance to collect on that money. So now I guess they're in a lawsuit, and TLO is suing the insurance company for that money. But now of course I don't know all the details. I don't know what the end result of this is going to be, but just because somebody fights for, or like is on the side of the private investigator, and doesn't mean he might not have a little bit of fraud going on himself. I'm not making any accusations, but I've seen it. And just on that note, while we're talking about it, cause I feel like this keeps happening to me, and I get concerned about it, but I know I'm doing the right thing. But I have clients that I work for, and this has happened a couple times now where, well, actually it's happened about 3, where they've either asked me to do something unethical or illegal or kind of fraudulent. The very people that are fighting against fraud are the very people that are asking you to bend the rules or break the rules. And every time I get into these conversations with these people, I just get a sickness inside of me like, oh man, don't ask me to do that. Don't, because this is going to ruin a nice relationship. I can't work for you. You know what I mean? Like it's strange. It's like, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough in this business because results are everything is such result oriented, but yeah, it just keeps happening. It's sad. It makes me sad. Just because we're all fighting, we're fighting for the little guy, and we're doing the insurance fraud, and we're, catching the cheating spouse, and, whatever. We're defending the people that are, helping lawyers out, and whatever. There's so many different facets of a private investigator, but the other thing, that doesn't mean there's not a little bit of, bad stuff going on behind the scenes. It happens. And, I like, and I've said this before, man, and this kind of just proves my point. I like going to sleep, and knowing that I don't have something eating away at me, like I did something wrong. I even asked my wife, I'm like, wife, what, this is what was asked of me to do today. And she said, and it's kind of hard to even talk about it without getting into the details, but, I presented the story to her, and she's like, well, what would happen if you did do that? And I'm like, well, X, Y, and Z could possibly happen. And when it's all said and done, I'm the guy who's, left holding the bag and could lose, could get sued or could get in trouble, And she's like, oh, okay, I gotcha. Yeah. So it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. And, if I lose a client over it, then, maybe it wasn't meant to be. But yeah, it's tough out there. So what else do we got going on here? I thought I read something. Let's see here. And I could be wrong, but I could have swore I read something that the UK is going to start regulating the private investigation industry. And I thought that was pretty interesting because they haven't been regulated. And let's see if I can get it up here. See, UK, yeah. Private investigators require a license. This is the the UK Parliament. And I'm not even reading any of these things, and I haven't got into it, but something to take a look at. I just thought, I don't know what's led up to that, but it's probably a good thing because, like I said, there are some real piece of work private investigators out there who take advantage of people and are just turds and need to be flushed out, and people that go unlicensed and, and there's no ramifications. There's, I don't know. Some, obviously some areas in Washington don't require, or not Washington, but United States don't require a license, but it doesn't hurt to get some people in there, with some experience and the people are really truly fighting for their clients. So, all right, that's it for the news. I'm going to jump into a topic I wrote about, and it was something that was searched for on my website, and I don't think I fully addressed it. I mean, I always talk about things on, our spy cameras and surveillance, but I never addressed this directly. So I thought, I was like, well, I could probably write, I have some stories about this. Let me, incorporate my story into some tips. So the article that I wrote was how to conduct surveillance in a bar, an investigation story worth reading, part 1. I plan on writing to part 2 with some more relevant, you'll see. So anyways, this case that I end up working was about 8 or 9 years ago. But when I first came into the industry, I was just, it was kind of, everything was just in awe, wow, look at all this cool stuff. They had the pager camera. And if you guys have seen my other videos, you probably saw me and I pulled out my pager camera. And if you're watching the video of this podcast, I would put this pager camera, see here, on my bag. The pager would be on the edge here. And I would walk around with my bag around my shoulder, kind of crossed, and I'd have my camera in the bag connected to the pager camera, and there's batteries and there was a connection, and it was crazy. It was madness. I got pretty good at the whole setup, but it was still a pain in the butt, But anyways, I digress. This case starts about 8 or 9 years ago, and I didn't even start the surveillance. It was in the Northwest, and another investigator was assigned to work this case in a very rural area. And he got out there and he just realized that it was just going to be near impossible to get video of this claimant. And it was just wooded and route departure. We didn't have any vehicles, the list goes on. We had a phone number for the guy. That was about it. So this investigator calls into the residence and a child answers. And the child says, or maybe it was the wife, I'm not quite sure. I don't even know if it really matters in the story. But needless to say, he finds out that the claimant is playing, he plays a guitar, and he was doing a little show at some bar in another state, a close by state. And so I guess he called the bar, confirmed that the guy was there, or he had narrowed it down, like, well, how many bars are close to the border? He just did some deductive reasoning, found out that he was at a specific bar. He actually went home. He picked up his girlfriend. This is the investigator. He picked up his girlfriend and drove to this bar. It was like 3 or 4 hours away. He gets there, and he ends up seeing the claimant, which at least what he thought was at the time. He got his video camera, put it on the table in front, one of the tables, many tables in front of the stage where he was playing guitar and singing, and pressed record and went off to drink beer and play pool with his girlfriend while he videotaped the claimant, like whatever, playing his guitar in front of everybody for however long it was. He then went up and he shook his guy's hand and he said, how are you doing? Great job out there. And, he verified the guy, he got his name, and, whatever, everybody was happy. Pretty damaging video. I think the guy had a back injury, something to that effect. Whatever he was doing was incriminating. Oh, and he wasn't supposed to be working, by the way. And so pretty sure that was a paying gig. So I get assigned the case. A couple months later, they want to reopen it and do some more surveillance. They suspected that he was working in a bar near his home. And I was like, okay, well, how hard could it be? I flew to this location and drove up in mid-morning and whenever the bar was open, I got there. Couple cars in the parking lot, no big deal. I go in there, there's like a couple like old guys sitting at the bar, and there is the claimant working as a bartender. And so I go up there and get my beer, and I'm just trying to play it cool. I'll be honest with you, I was nervous. Especially walking around with my pager camera on my bag, my camera bag, right? I don't know what I was thinking. I was just too lazy. So I'm sitting there, I'm trying to videotape them, but it's all in black and white. And I get you don't know what you're videotaping. You don't know the quality of it. It's black and white. You don't know if it's all getting washed out, anything that's happening. So I made my way closer to the bar, sat at the bar because I think I was sitting at a table to begin with. And I put my bag on the table and just started videotaping him bartending. And then we struck up a conversation, and he's saying, yeah, I work part-time at this bar. I'm actually on an insurance claim. And mind you, I didn't ask him anything. It was just all small talk. Like, where are you from? Whatever, he's asking me, and I'm like, oh, my wife, we're visiting family out here. And, she let me get out of the house and get away from the family. So I was like, well, I better go get myself a beer. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, oh yeah, I got you. And, so I'm drinking I'm just, sipping my beer, and he goes on to tell me that he's on an insurance claim. And that a private investigator come out to videotape him, and they videotaped the wrong guy chopping wood in front of his house. He said, it wasn't me, it was my neighbor. My neighbor had come over to chop wood, and I just couldn't believe it. And they're all trying to come after me. So I work part-time here, and, whatever. And so meanwhile, I'm getting some like great footage of him, like handing me a beer and, working. And then I think I even got him like moving a keg or something. And so, then he goes on to tell me that there was a live jam session at that bar, and he was going to be there that night playing. And I was like, oh, wow, great. I'm going to get even more video of this guy. So I go on to, by the way, I also kind of found it weird. It's funny. That wasn't like the first time that ever happened to me either. When they start talking about their claim, I always find that fascinating that it happens right when you're doing, why does that conversation come up with the private investigator? I don't know. Like, I just think it's weird, but anyways, I came back, I said, whatever. And I videotaped him a little bit more. And I thought, man, this isn't even the good stuff. The good stuff's going to be later when he's sitting on stage for hours, playing guitar and whatever, interacting with folks. So I came back, and the bar was packed, got my beer, found a little seat, and I started rolling film. Meanwhile, he's doing the band thing, and he's walking around, and after about an hour of rolling film, I go to the bathroom and check. I always check my video. I want to make sure I can kind of learn from, like, is this spot getting washed out? Is the video is the lights too bright on them? You kind of gauge what's happening. Meanwhile, of course, black and white camera, right? So I did that several times. Kind of learned from my you never know when you kind of lose track of time. You don't know how much time's passed. And so, I went to the bathroom like 5 or 6 times, either changing out tapes or, switching out batteries on my camera. It was big to do. So he finally finishes, right. And I probably switched out tapes 4 or 5 times. I can't remember. And I'm sitting there, and he comes up to me. He just looks at my bag and goes, so you ever going to pull out that camera? And I was like, what? And I was kind of nervous. So I just grabbed my bag and brought it closer to me. And I was like, my heart's pumping, like, what's going on here? I'm like, no, I don't have a camera in here. It's my man stuff. That's the best. That's the best I could come up with. And he's like, oh, okay. I just thought you had a camera in there. I'm like, nope. And then I was like, I thought that was kind of a tipping point where I was like, this doesn't feel right anymore. This, I'm not on my own stomping ground. This is his stomping ground. He works here. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't want to be confronted. That was kind of my line of thinking. And then of course, my pager cam is not, if you really look at it close, you're like, what is going on there? Why is there a hole? It just doesn't look right if you're too close, which I was close for a long period of time. And so I think I stayed in the bar for a little bit more. And then some other lady asked me about my bag, and I said it's my man bag. And then I made my way outside and waited for the night to end and him to load up his stuff. And I got some video in the dark of him loading up his car with some of his equipment and then taking off. And then I went home. I don't know. I think I had like 4 or 5 hours of video of the guy, basically looking like he's got no physical disability whatsoever. I mean, if you can sit there and play guitar in a bar, I guess, you're not that hurt. Or and after working that day, right? I don't know. I'm not the adjuster, but it didn't seem so right. So, anyways, I think I came back the next day and he wasn't working or something. I'm like, okay, well, we got the major video that we needed to get. So anyways, never saw the claim again. The video was pretty damaging. I think, like I said, 4 or 5 hours of video and whatever. Some of it was washed out. Some of it wasn't. Some of it was killer, but sometimes that's just how it goes. So, what I wanted to leave with you on this was, there's some things that I did learn, at least I've learned throughout my career, and, that are kind of apply to, some lessons you're going to need to learn about or get over or pay attention to, because you want to get the money shot if it's available. And it's not always ideal situations. Your crap malfunctions, your camera doesn't do well in low light or doesn't do well in a lot of light, like my, the U8 camera that I told you about when I went outside and it just overexposed and you can't see anything. It's just like a bright light. So anyway, my first thing I would say is if your covert camera isn't very spy-like, if it isn't very covert, don't get close to your subject. Don't get close to anybody associated to your subject. Just try to shoot from afar if possible. And if you've done any practice with your covert camera, the capabilities of it. Again, I always tell you practice with that thing. So, my pager camera was not very covert, so it made me very nervous when that guy came up to me and started talking about a camera in my bag. So, anyways, keep your distance a little bit. Second one is small talk usually turns into great information. It's just like human nature. People want to talk most of the time, and the more they warm up to you, the more they're about to talk about stuff that you never thought they would talk about. And if I didn't do the small talk with that guy, then he might have never mentioned the fact that he was coming back later that night and it was another video opportunity, and how much money did I save the client because I got him doing what he was doing, if you think about it. Lighting makes a difference. Number 3, know your camera's capabilities. It doesn't hurt to go to your car and check what you've got. If you can, plug it into your computer, see what the footage looks like. Cause sometimes you have to make adjustments on the fly. You don't always have that luxury to go back to your car and plug it in real quick and just see what you got, but it makes a difference. So there were times when it was overexposed and you couldn't make out what the guy was doing. It was just the lighting. It was the camera. It was garbage. Other times, you knew where he was in the bar, so it was really easy to tell. It just depends. So try to put yourself in a position in the room that is good for your camera, if possible. It doesn't always work, but just think about it, though. It's more about having it in the back of your brain, being conscious of it. Number 4, if it gets weird, get out. As you heard in my story, I got a little weirded out when the guy starts talking about the camera. And so I was like, well, not looking for any confrontations, even though I know a little karate. But if it gets weird, get out of there. But there's also an addendum to that statement, but we'll get to it in a second. Fit in to your environment is number 2. What do we at? Number 5. Fit in. Don't stand out, man. Don't overdress for a situation. Don't overthink it either. If you go into a bar, order a drink. Don't just sit there because your company says you can't drink alcohol on the job. Well, then get an apple juice, get a water, buy something, buy a Pepsi, but have it in your hand. It makes you fit in. Otherwise, you look all awkward like you don't belong. But yeah, and on that note, you don't want to get drunk on surveillance, people. That's not cool. I mean, and I know some situations like you might drink an alcoholic beverage. It used to be okay. I think a lot of companies are getting away from that because people aren't using their best judgment. But I would go have a beer, watch my person, but I wouldn't get drunk over it. It would, obviously. So don't get drunk. What are we at? Number 6. Don't get mental during surveillance. This kind of goes back to if it gets weird, get out. We are our worst enemy out there. You will think your brain just it ruins surveillances. Now, don't get me wrong. You want to observe things. You want to anticipate problems, but a lot of times we are our own worst enemy. We think we're burned when we're not. Maybe they said something or did something. Maybe they just looked at you and you're like, oh, he knows I'm here. I got to get going. Well, case is over. We're burned. But then really he was looking, the guy behind you, but you're in his line of sight. Happens all the time. So don't freak out. Okay. Keep your cool. And don't ruin a surveillance because you're head games. You play head games with you and you think you're in trouble or you think something bad's happening when it's really not. You need to really think about it and think about why you're thinking that. And then my final tip is use the best covert camera that fits in your budget. And folks, if you don't have $20, then I cannot help you. You got to go. I mean, spy cams have never been cheaper. I mean, it's a super sale. Listen, I don't think I own a spy camera over like $25. And if I do, it's because I bought it for you guys. I bought it to review. And, I'll buy friggin' 10 808 cameras. I mean, at whatever they are, $5 a piece. If they break, they were $5. Don't get all hurt about it. Don't get your feelings hurt. Get the best camera in your budget. Get something that you're going to like. You're going to, and I'm talking covert people. Get a camera that's going to, you're going to be able to hold and use, and it's going to fit in. That's, good for the lighting. And, it obviously, you can get away with some video cameras are not as good as others, but you can get away with it sometimes, even though the quality's not as good. And piece of cake, folks. Go to PrivateInvestigatorStore.net. Go to what I use, or just go to spy cams in general and check them out. And using the best covert camera that fits into your budget. I recently talked to a very successful private investigator. So he's no slouch. He's very good at what he does. But he told me I use the sunglasses covert camera. I said, really? He's like, when did you use those? He's like, I used them at a gym. I'm like, a gym? I go, those things are you got to wear a sweatshirt to cover up the whole fat areas of the camera, to make, because they look so awkward. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't do that. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I use them. They were fine. I got plenty of good video of this guy working out. I'm like, I don't think I would use them, but more power to you, man. If you, got the stones to use them that close to somebody in a gym, then more power to you. And he said, yeah, it worked. And actually, in all honesty, the quality of those cameras are pretty good, even though I don't think I've done a formal review on them. But yeah, so hopefully I do a part 2 of this story soon. You can read the blog. It's a little more detailed. You got the verbal version, which is usually, like, I always seem to miss something. When you write something, you can be a little more, more thoughtful, think about it more. But if I write down notes, I don't end up looking at them. I just I'm like looking at the camera. I'm looking at, my computer. So it's tough. It's tough to stay on track. And if I look at it, then I start reading, then I just pause. And that's really bad for podcasting. So I don't want to do that. So, anyways, folks, I really hope, if you're trying to get in the industry here, that you guys can find a job. I have been posting things that I see in forums about jobs, that fit an entry level kind of position. So be on the lookout for that. Some of the people I know, some of the companies I know, are the people I know work at the companies that I know. So, I kind of can vouch for them a little bit, but not always. Some of them I just know that they're just, kind of good companies to work for. Business people, if you guys have just started a business, let me know about it. If you guys, I'll give you guys a shout out. If you want, I do know that I think it was Ryan Adam Investigation hit their year mark, and they are doing very well. The guy is blowing up in a good way with his business, and I'm very proud for him. Not proud of him, proud for him, all that kind of good stuff. And he's one of those guys that's a go-getter, and we've emailed back and forth and whatnot probably over the past 6 months or so, and he's just he's really doing it. He's really taking it to it. So I'm really happy for him and his company. Also, iTunes folks, I need some ratings. So if you guys could swing over to iTunes and go ahead and give me a rating, maybe leave a little comment, I will drop your name on the next podcast and read it out loud. And folks, I think that's about it. I won't drag this on. You guys drive safe to work. And, if you guys have some podcasting ideas, I'm always listening to them. I'm still getting to the list that was sent to me with all the contributors from the email list. And don't forget to check that out as well. If you guys want, just kind of a heads up on things that are coming out, and you guys don't visit Facebook, you just get your emails. Also, Private Investigator Advice or PI Advice on YouTube for all my videos, or you can just go to the hub, Private Investigator Advice HQ.com. That's the website. It's got access to the podcasts and the videos and the awesomeness and the PI-ness. So check that out. Private Investigator Store is the Amazon store that helps fund this lovely podcast and the website and you name it. So if you guys want to support that, you guys can maybe buy your spy cam equipment or some equipment from that store. I get a small commission. Much appreciated if you do. If you don't, that's cool too. Sometimes I just refer people to Best Buy because they don't want to wait. So like a lot of people ask about, well, what do you use to get the timestamp off the video onto a DVD so the video's got the timestamp, the date and time? I say I use Dazzle. And you can either go to my Amazon store, order it on there, or I got mine at Best Buy. I don't know what's cheaper, but, that's where I got mine. And yeah, good times. So, all right, guys. Let me say goodbye with a little music for you.
This is a PI Advice Podcast. This is a PI Podcast.
Yes, the PI Podcast. Thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Peace out.